When the press is finished asking questions, we will take questions from the audience. We'll have a 2-minute answer time on the questions, both press and audience, and a 1-minute close. I'm going to start at this end for the opening, and you don't have to wait for me. When your 2 minutes is up, just move on down. And then press, you can immediately start with your questions.
Hello, can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Yes. My name is Eddie Hayes from Athens, Georgia. I'm married to Debbie Hayes, been married for 34 years. We have 5 children. My oldest is 26, my youngest is 16. We homeschool. Been doing that since my oldest daughter is 26, who's also a homeschooler. So we really think a lot about education, self-exposure, and make the sacrifice to do it. A lot of people are not able to do it. We made the sacrifice to do it, and a lot of people say, well, I just couldn't do that. Well, we couldn't either. But we couldn't send our kids to public school either. So we had to make a decision, and we made that decision. And so that's one of the reasons I'm running. My slogan is, I stand with Eddie. And that just means I stand with Eddie for faith, I stand with Eddie for family, for education. I believe the state of Georgia is required to do a few things, but not all the things that we do. One of them is education, it's in our Constitution. Transportation is what's the lifeblood of our state. And that's safety. Safety for our children at home and abroad when they're in the school and out of school. In my case, I'm a homeschooler, so they're safe. They're at the house. We go together. In 2010, we were able to travel to Israel for 3 months, and we wouldn't have been able to do that if we hadn't been homeschoolers. And we worked and served with farmers over there in Judea and Samaria. And that's the same kind of service I would like to do. It's a tireless service. We got up every night. We went to bed every night. We got up every morning and had oatmeal at 3 o'clock in the morning. Was in the vineyard out there working and serving. And so I think I would be a good governor. So I know the union service.
Well, thank you all so much for inviting me to be with you tonight. Thank you all for coming in here and hearing about us. I'm Hunter Hill. I'm a lifelong Georgian. Grew up here my whole life. I went to West Point to play football and got a chance to choose what branch I was going to serve in. And I chose to be an infantry officer, which brought me down to beautiful Fort Benning, Georgia, where I learned to jump out of airplanes and became an Army Ranger. And then led 5 different teams on 3 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've been in the real estate business. I've been running a coaching company for the last 5 years. We coach entrepreneurs and executives and help them reach their full potential. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Shannon. We have 2 lovely children, and they both go to our local public school in Cobb County. But I've also been in the state Senate for 5 years. And as a result of that experience, I can tell each and every one of you that there's so much more that we can be doing to move the conservative agenda forward and help Georgia reach its full potential. But it's not going to happen unless we elect a true conservative leader to be our next governor. And I tell you that because the values that you and I believe in, less government, less taxes, and more freedom, these ideas are not going to be implemented into policy if we elect a career politician to be our next governor. I look forward to answering your questions. I can tell you that whatever we talk about tonight will not cover the gamut of what's going to come before a governor's desk. So I want to tell you what my values are and the way that I make decisions as a husband, as a father, as a man, and how I will live as your governor. It's 2 foundational principles. Number 1, I'm a Christian. I gave my life to the Lord in the 8th grade, and the scriptures of the Old and New Testament inform who I am as a man, as a father, and also my political philosophy, and also believe in the founding principles of our country, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution of the United States. Our founders fought to establish life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and I will use all of my leadership and beliefs and skills to defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as your governor. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Clay Tippins, and I was a successful technology business person. I was a Navy SEAL. My wife and I are both Georgia natives. We live in Atlanta. But this is the first time I've ever run for office. And it's an interesting experience. I've gotten to know some of the people here. I've gotten to know the state better. Some of the things that you sort of observe and unfold about the process is you watch folks talk about true conservative leadership. You talk about protecting Second Amendment rights and constitutional rights. after having appeared on stage, with Democrats, and said you have to be 21 years old to purchase a long gun. And what I think is needed more than anything else is an honest conversation about where we are and about how we move our state forward in the right direction, not fork-tongue flip-flop. Where I think we are is really where Joseph and Pharaoh were when they had the conversation about the future. He said, Pharaoh, there'll be 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. We've got to act now to get ready for the future. The bad news is Washington, D.C. is bankrupt. There's no way to get another 5 or 10 years without a reckoning. Higher interest rates, higher inflation. And the governors and the mayors of America and Georgia are the ones who have to deal with this. The good news is technology and medicine are progressing like no other time in history. It's changed and improved more in the last 10 years than the previous 100. I think if we bring a business background, a Navy SEAL background, things like sex trafficking, cutting state funding by 10%, $3 billion, putting leftover money, getting income taxes below 4%, investing more in roads to get our children reading, I think that's the way that we can have a great 21st century Georgia. I don't think that those outcomes happen doing things the old way, the typical ways. It requires transforming Georgia's government, and I think I'm the person to do that. We're going to have to flip-flop back and forth all night long on the microphone. Just be patient with us.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to speak to fellow Georgians and all citizens of this wonderful county, Cherokee County. My name is Mark Urbeck. A lot of you don't know about me, and like that TV show Seinfeld, he said, it's not me, it's them, meaning the media. I've been a statesman candidate the past 9 months, working about 20 hours a day, just like our CIC, our Commander-in-Chief, and our duly elected President, Donald J. Trump. All right, I'm a former teacher of 11 years in Gwinnett County Schools, a master historian, a constitutional expert, much more than a career politician, and much more than these fake conservatives. Been here in Georgia for 18 years. Before that, I was in Austin, Texas for 9 years with a small business. For my sports leagues and high schools, they tripled their revenue with common sense principles. I use common sense a lot. And what we have here in our government, according to national magazines, they say is the most corrupt government in America. We're dealing with a well-oiled oligarchy machine. Career politicians, fake conservatives. And this is from a member, a friend of mine, who said, quote, never quit. We have to help get rid of the tyrants, and yes, they still exist. Just remember, we the people keep putting these clowns in office. Time to change things, ladies and gentlemen. So I've tried to change things. I filed what's called a legal petition to use my constitutional rights in the grand jury of DeKalb County. If you folks want to drain the swamp, if you folks want to get accountability to your government, someone will subpoena me and my attorney, because these petitions were not allowed to be filed in the DeKalb courthouse in the United States Court for the North District of Georgia. The DEAs in this state and the wicked judges are violating my attorney's constitutional rights and my rights. So to drain the swamp, let's get us into the grand jury, and we'll put this oligarchy of career politicians and fake conservatives back into place and return accountability to you, we the people of Georgia. Thank you so much. Start to the left and work your way to the right.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to keep the questions rather general so that you guys can put out there the platform as you would like. And the same questions I asked your gubernatorial candidates. First question is, what is your top priority if elected? What's the first thing you plan to do when you get into office?
Okay, I guess that starts with me. The first thing, on the day that I'm elected governor, I would like to institute a tax overhaul. It's a consumption tax, so all Georgians get to be part of it. Right now, we have a taxation system where probably half the people don't pay income tax. We don't make, we say, well, they don't make enough money, so they shouldn't have to. Well, it's a government for the people and by the people, so all people should pay into it. I know in Exodus chapter 30, verse 15, it says, the rich shall pay no more, yea, and the poor will pay no less. They'll pay equal. Now, if we're looking at a flat tax, that's fine. I can go with something like that, so everybody pays. Or if we're doing a consumption tax, I really like the fair tax. When Linder and Boards did a book about it, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, got that thing and read it, and I was like, it makes sense to me. Everyone gets to pay, no underground economy, because everybody's going to buy cigarettes and gas, right? Not me, I don't smoke. I'm just saying this. A lot of people. But they're going to buy groceries. And if you have a consumption tax, it'll catch that money, that under the table money, cash money, and it'll tax it. So that would be the first thing I would do.
My number one priority is to implement a more limited and focused government that delivers results for taxpayers. Over the course of my 5 years in the Senate, even with these large majorities of Republicans in the Senate and the House, we continue to grow the size of government. We have an opportunity, but it's not here forever, to really tackle the growth of government. The size and scope of government has so grown over the last 80 years that it's usurped the role of the church and the family. We've got to get government back to a more smaller and focused entity. The foundational areas that I want to focus on from a funding standpoint are public safety, transportation, and education. All of the other areas in which we spend money need to be brought to the table to look at drastically either cutting those spending in those areas or reforming the way that we do business in those areas, because we cannot continue to throw good money after bad. We're $21 trillion in debt at the federal level, and most people don't know this, but half the money we spend at the state level comes from the federal government. So until we start getting limited government candidates elected to become governors all over this country, we're never going to really be able to truly address long-term entitlement spending in many of the broken areas of our spending in governments, both federally and locally. So that's going to be my first focus. Part of my plan to do that is to eliminate the Georgia state income tax. It's an economic competitiveness issue with other states in the Southeast. We're one of the highest income tax states in the Southeast at 6%, bordered with Tennessee and Florida, and Texas to our west have no income tax. So pro-business, pro-family tax reform that's focused on elimination of the income tax, and then focusing on the spending side of the ledger and getting us to a more limited and focused government that delivers results for taxpayers.
When a leader determines what happens first, it should either be something that's doable or something that's foundational that leads to other good things. So we talked about fiscal restraint and we talked about public safety. Let me take the first thing on both. We sit at the beginning of a generational opportunity to shrink and transform our government. 1 out of 5 Georgia state employees become voluntarily retirement eligible in the next 3 or 4 years. It's due to baby boomers retiring. We've got an unprecedented power with technology to do data and analytics, identify the massive waste, fraud, and abuse that exists in our entitlement system. I would first of all put a process in place where when 15,000 baby boomers retire, 1 out of 5 state employees, we figure out a way to not replace all of them, consolidate some of those jobs, put them in those roles in more important places like third grade reading. That could be hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Next, I would put an analytical infrastructure in place like I've been part of in business, where we could find the hundreds of millions of dollars a year of fraudulent food stamps, disability fraud, etc., and eliminate that. You would have a cheaper government, you'd have a real pathway to cutting taxes, and you would have a government you believed in. Next, you're sitting in the #1 place in America for sex trafficking. Having seen evil and thought evil overseas, I can tell you that it's one of the most evil things on the planet. Someone who would sell a child for sex 8 or 10 times every day, there's not much worse than that. We are the #1 place. That infuriates me and embarrasses me. The very techniques and methods that we used overseas to take down Al-Qaeda and ISIS networks are directly applicable here. But we have underinvested in that as a state. And we could put a fusion center methodology in place like we use overseas that would devastate that. Because those networks are entwined with heroin and MS-13, it would put a real hurt on those as well. That would be my first public safety crime target. Thank you.
My first day in your governor's mansion, because the people are the first branch of government The Constitution starts with the Declaration of Independence, the consent of the government. So as the first day together, I will file and instruct the Attorney General to open a criminal investigation pertaining to all criminal matters pertaining to records and emails dealing with the Board of Regents. If he refuses, I shall open my own investigation against him. And my attorney, Stephen Humphreys, has 5 years of internal emails and documents this high, and he's for 5 years tried to get to the grand jury to submit all this factual evidence, documented proof, of millions and millions of dollars that were wiped away from the Georgia Criminal College when President Tricoli was there. I met Stephen Humphreys about 8 months ago and signed a check to him to work together for you, the people of Georgia. And again, my legal petitions have been illegally denied by, we have the whole General Assembly. They're unindicted felons. Why? Because they are not allowing the judges and DAs to do their job properly. My constitutional rights, your constitutional rights, Stephen Humphrey's constitutional rights in the Georgia Constitution, paragraph 12, are illegally denied. And the members of the General Assembly need to answer to you guys. When will they apologize to every single father and mother, and especially the children and the students? Student college tuition has increased 75% the past 10 years. Whole programs have been wiped away and canceled. And career politicians and fake lying conservatives say budget cuts. We know the truth. The budget has swelled from $15 billion to $26 billion, and the unindicted felons will not allow me into your grand jury or any grand jury in the state because it's a massive oligarchy machine. And that's what I will do for you as my oath to God and the people of Georgia. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you once again for being here tonight. Some of the questions I have are going to be individual, some will be directed to the entire panel. I'd like to start out this evening with Eddie. You have been quoted as saying that the right kind of education teaches ethics, morals, and our system of beliefs. And that's why you're in favor of school choice, as you mentioned in your opening, and why you homeschool your own children. Based on that, do you believe that homeschool parents in the state of Georgia should see a reduction in their taxes for schooling at home?
Yes. I got 2 minutes to talk about it. Great question. Yes, I do. I think that I was talking to the current superintendent down in Pike County, and he was telling me, to the average student, put them all together, it's $8,500 a year per student. He says he tells me there's 150,000 students in Georgia that do not go to public school. So you multiply that out, that's 1,275,000. I don't know why you prime me for this question, but I did the math on that. That's how much that the state is not putting into it because people are homeschooling. The reason people are homeschooling going to private school because they don't feel like the education that they're getting at the public school level is what they want for their children. Some do it because they want to teach your value as far as evolution and creation. Some people do that. Others do it because public schools, just some of them aren't safe. It's not a safe place to have your kids there. It's the stuff that goes on there. I have a friend of mine who was doing some heat and air work, and he said, my kids are going to go to X County school. I won't name the county. And he said, I went there to the middle school, and they were out there dealing drugs in the parking lot, right in front. And he said, I went home, first thing I did, I put a for sale sign in my yard, and I sold my house. And I moved to another county that I thought would be a better county for my kids to go to school. That's happening all over Georgia. And so, yes, I think some sort of most of the tax that I pay in Clark County is the school. Because I'm in Clark County, because Clark County University of Georgia is there, and that takes up a lot of tax revenue right there, so we pay a higher tax there. And so I think a reduction of property tax to those who are homeschooling, they should be allowed to have something.
Thank you.
My assumption is that all of the lieutenant gubernatorial candidates and the gubernatorial candidates are running on some sort of platform of reducing spending and cutting waste. So my question to all of you is, where is the waste, and where would you cut from? And you start on this side.
Okay, so to reiterate, my vision for the state is to implement a more limited and focused government that delivers results for taxpayers. We have tried to become a jack of all trades in government, therefore we're a master of none. We continued, when I was in Afghanistan on my third tour, as an implementer of national policy, I found that the government is willing to spend billions of dollars on an idea that no matter how much more money you put behind it is not going to move us closer to getting the intended result. Specifically, my mission was to win the hearts and minds of the Afghans for the hope that they would adopt our value set and become more American-minded. And I knew that that was not going to work. But we do that at the state level. So we spend billions of dollars on welfare, food stamps. Medicaid is completely broken. The costs have skyrocketed. And the reason for it is there's broken philosophies behind it. If the goal is to elevate people's lives and to help people reach their full potential, then giving them something for nothing is not going to help them reach their full potential. What you want to do is put them in environments where they can elevate their skills, maybe get more education. That's why I'm for technical skills and technical college. But giving someone something for nothing does not elevate them. So the answer to your question is all the social programs. What we need to have are communities that are stronger, where ministries and nonprofits are working together to lift up the least of these among us, and not expecting the government to do it because we're spending billions of dollars and not delivering results, and we're actually hurting the people we're intending to help. So specifically, again, Medicaid, welfare, food stamps, higher education. There's a lot of bloat in the higher education system. But the areas I'm going to prioritize for spending are public safety, transportation, and education.
I mentioned previously, if you actually go back and read Governor Deal's budgets, 14,600 state employees become retirement eligible in the next 3 or 4 years. When I use words like we sit on the front of a generational opportunity to strengthen, transform, reprioritize our government, it's the truth, we did. But to drive that outcome, you've got to have a business background, a different sort of mindset, a different approach to steer into that and use that as a transformation catalyst. So that'd be the first one. The second thing is I went on a listening tour of the state. And I kept hearing repeatedly, you know what angers people? Is all the money that goes to waste and fraud and abuse. And this one person said, listen, there's towns all over Georgia. You know the doctor you go see, you walk in, you say high school football knee injury. And 45 minutes later, you've got $6,000 a year in disability and a bottle of oxycodone pills. And to put this pill thing in perspective for you, you sit in a state with 10 million citizens, and we prescribed 541 million pills to our citizens in the past 12 months. Inexcusable. So this disability fraud, pill fraud thing sits at the intersection of opioid deaths, heroin deaths, and also waste, fraud, abuse across the entire entitlement system. So knowing that's important, I asked a top expert in the state, can you tell me the percentage of working age adults in our state, in every county, that are on disability? This guy looked at me and said, in all the years I've been the guru, no one's ever asked that question. And I said, well, you know, if we ask ahead of a bank which branches default on loans the most, they'd know the answer. So we worked together to analyze it. It turns out you've got 20 counties in Georgia that have got 3 times the state average of their adults on disability. If you plot them, 17 of those 20 counties are contiguous. It's 4 perfect clusters around the state. That's not normal, and it's not honest. We have this tremendous ability to use data to find waste, fraud, and abuse and entitlements to drive out hundreds of millions of dollars of waste.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's a very good question. And it goes back to the basic premise of a representative. Okay? The members of the General Assembly are representatives, but they're supposed to represent you, we the people of Georgia. That's in the Constitution. But they don't represent the people. They represent special interest lobbyists and corporations. The amount of money, property tax dollars, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars in the past 25 years, stays in the gold dome, and they give it to their friends. So as governor, we, my oath to you, my oath to God, and our future children, you will see accountability because the dollars are right there on the computers. I just found out 2 weeks ago there's 2 sets of books for the Board of Regents. That's unacceptable. Someone's cooking the book because there's two sets. We are going to drain the swamp and clean the swamp for you, the people, so you can see where your money is going, because it's not going back to the counties where it should be, into your wallets, for you and your families and for businesses. Okay? So we must get accountability back into your government, because right now the Georgia Constitution, they all act like wicked esquires, which are lawyers. They have exclusive authority. That means they do whatever they want with our money, and they're getting away with it. And they'll continue to get away with it because they, the unindicted felons, will not allow citizens to use the grand jury in criminal proceedings against government officials. We have to stop this. If you think it's bad now, wait what happens if someone that's not a statesman gets into your mansion. It's going to get worse. I have solutions for everything. Common Core is no more. No more Common Core. We can build more highways and crawl. The traffic's going to get much double worse. My solution is the silver bullet high-speed monorail system. The General Assembly is trying to push MARTA into the whole state, but they coded it with 159 special districts. This is unacceptable, fighting for you and your families.
How many of you remember your first fishing pole? Mine was the real fishing pole, not the cane pole you used. It was a Zebco 202. And they've been around for 50 plus years. And that's my approach, is to help people learn to fish, learn to be self-sufficient. I like that President Trump roll back the Obama era thing, so now it's workfare instead of welfare. When he did that, I applauded it. I think that was a wonderful thing. It should have never been rolled back, because all it does is cause dependency. And what you have a class of people that have needs. And if they're being met, in 68, they come up with the Great Society, Johnson did. And when he did, he said, what happens is, we'll be your daddy. We'll take care of you from cradle to grave. I was only 5 years old, so I had nothing to do with it. I was born in 63. But that's what it started, the Great Society. And that's where we progressed. Now, you get more benefits to the more unwedded children, unwedded girls with children. I was in the restaurant industry for 18 years. I worked with a lot of those people, and they would be like, you're 26 years old and you have 6 children. Wow. But you know what? Come February of each year, I get a check. It's called the Earned Income Check. Ronald Reagan signed it into it, and that was something that I think was probably one of the less likely things I had. But it was supposed to be, if you owed income, you would be reduced that income. It wasn't supposed to be, if you have children, we'll just pay you for each one. And so I think the family is where it needs to start. The family taking care of family. This past week I was at my mother and father were both in the hospital. My 56-year-old Down syndrome sister was living, I was sleeping at their house. Family.
This next question is going to be playing, if you don't mind. Religious liberty, religious freedom has become a hot button issue, quite frankly, not only in our state, but across the nation, but specifically talking about our state. You've been quoted as saying that you would not take the religious freedom pledge. Could you explain your position on that?
That'd be great, thank you. A little bit about me first. Faith is the cornerstone of my life and our family. I got saved on March 5th, 1978, so I was 5 at the time. So my faith is as important as anything in the world to me. And I will do whatever it takes to protect religious freedom in Georgia. I'll protect that with the same whatever it takes tenacity that I fought protected overseas. What I won't do on religious freedom or taxes or anything is take pledges to sign undrafted legislation. The final version of anything matters. It's just, I made decisions about life and death and those sorts of things. Details matter. That's why I'm going to take that particular pledge. What I can and am committing to do is, first of all, appoint conservative justices, pro-life justices that believe that rights, believe that freedom, believe that life comes from God, and this is something we played with and tinkered by man. I will veto legislation that allows lawsuits against people of faith like you see in Colorado or Washington, which gave rise to the Massachusetts Bakery case. I would work to actively fund and have the government support lawsuits on behalf of people of faith that are sued or have their freedoms infringed upon. There's a legal defense fund for that. There's several things that, independent of how the Masterpiece Bakery case comes down from the Supreme Court, that you can do. But I don't think a responsible leader takes a pledge to sign something that they haven't read, that hasn't hit their desk yet. That's my issue with the pledge, but I will do whatever it takes to protect religious freedom.
Thank you very much.
I mentioned this again, like I said, the Senator Majority.
Do we not all get that?
If you'd like to respond.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that. Religious liberty is a foundational constitutional principle, and what happened over time was that liberal judges have downgraded it through their court rulings. So on the one hand, one could say that a solution would be to appoint conservative judges, but judges interpret laws that are in conflict with the Constitution. That's what they get hired to do. But if a legislature drafts clear statutes, we don't have to worry about who the judges are, because it's very clear to articulate what is necessary in each case. So, bottom line is, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act restores religious liberty to the rightful protection in the Constitution, which is the strict scrutiny standard. It's something that we owe the people of Georgia to make sure that their faith is protected and not leave it to a future governor to appoint conservative judges. We need to make sure that the statute is sound so that people of faith are protected. The left is coming at us with everything they've got, and we need leaders that are strong and resolute and understand the founding principles of our country, and religious liberty is foundational. And these judges have only downgraded religious liberty. All the three other protections in the First Amendment are protected at the strict scrutiny standard, as well as all the other 9 amendments to the Constitution. So only religious liberty is downgraded. I think it's very important that we have a leader that's going to say, you know what? I'm going to sign a Religious Freedom Restoration Act bill so that our people of faith can be protected. And it's finally very important because I've been to a nation that doesn't protect your religious liberties, having fought in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I can tell you that a nation that does not protect your religious liberties will not protect any of your liberties. In America, we have prosperity because of religious liberty and the other protections in the First Amendment, and we need a leader that's going to stand strong on those issues.
Modern technology. Okay, good. It was a very, very important question. Our founding mothers and founding fathers put freedom of religion for the people against the federal government as the #1 freedom. You know that. That's in the First Amendment. And I believe in freedom of religion. And this book is my second book. It's called Believe. Do we need a third Great Awakening? We've already had 2. The first one was about 20 years before 1776. The Black Robe ministers inspired the colonists, and they warned them, we are losing our God-given rights. We better get our act together. And it worked, because we won the revolution. The second Great Awakening was about Charles Finley, when the founding mothers and founding fathers were dying. They said, we got to get the nation on track. We're going to have a civil war. And Jefferson predicted it 41 years before it happened. So Believe, been read by 400 Americans, members of Congress, and Stephen Breyer, I signed a copy for him, United States Supreme Court Justice. It proves how the United States Court of America, the Supreme Court, illegally removed our 5 religious freedoms from the schools. Many of you are older than me, and many of you, your teachers led you in prayer. Okay, that was legal for all 160 years. So was teaching the Holy Bible, teaching the 10 Commandments at any grade level, invocations, benedictions, in school prayers at any time. Those have been illegally removed. My book proves it. Stephen Breyer knows it. So we need a statesman in your governor's mansion that will enforce the Constitution of the United States, not trying to introduce bills that will weaken the United States Constitution. And here's my religious freedom bill that I submitted on Valentine's Day to over 20 state representatives, Spoke privately to Senator Lindsey Tippins. He loved it. Not one representative called me back. The Sally secretaries lied to me, saying they would call me back. And this is already federal law. It's the Northwest Ordinance of 1789, written by Thomas Jefferson, signed by President Washington into law. So we need to enforce the laws on the books for you and your families.
Well, I think it was Bill Clinton who originally signed the one, back in, I want to say 19, I could be wrong about the year, at the federal level. At the state level, I do see there's a need for it to be protected. And it's not just for K-8 groups and stuff like that. It's for people who have a conscience disagreement or something, who have their conscience. I was working in a vineyard up in the mountains of Israel, Habakkuk, and a discussion came up, and it was me sharing my beliefs with some person who asked me, "What do you believe?" I wasn't going out proselytizing. Okay, that was a part of the agreement to go there. You wouldn't do that. But someone come to me and asked me about what I believe and why I do this. And I said, "Well, I serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that Jesus is my Messiah. You're looking for a Messiah. I'm looking for a Messiah too. You're looking for him the first time. I'm looking for him the second time. But we're both looking for him." And so the discussion come up was, "What do you do?" And I told the guy that was leading the discussion, the fellow who was the head of it there, I said, "Every night, I've got to be able to lay my head down on my pillow. Every night, I've got to be right with my God." And so, no, I'm not going out saying that that we are trying to proselytize as a believer, being a governor, going in and putting laws that isn't that I believe in. Okay, but I do think that, we should all be able to live under the same law. There should be one law. There shouldn't be a law for some. There shouldn't be a law that the law that the government views different groups. You have the LGBT, and they're getting viewed different. It's like asking for a right, like in civil rights. It's not the same.
My next question has to do with education. QBU was fully funded for the first time since the recession, this last legislative session. And I wanted to know from each of you if that funding is something that you will look to continue, and if there are more measures that you think need to take place to shore up the state's education system.
Okay. Well, thank you. And education is my baby, as I taught for 11 years in Gwinnett County. Why did I start teaching? Because I love students, I love American history, and I've been here for 18 years, so I'm an expert on education. I've seen documents top down, that means federal government down and state up. I've seen the United Nations documents that control our education. And again, Governor Urbach, fighting for the people, Common Core is no more. When I call into the White House again, President Trump, it's an honor to speak with you, all the strings attached with Common Core are gone. We'll deal with the money the following months. Our money goes to DC, we have to pay to get it back. This is unacceptable. If we can get to the grand jury, you can imagine how many hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars I'm going to take out of the higher education and properly fund K through 12. We can do it if we see the second set of books that the oligarchs know where it is. They all know about this legal case, they're doing nothing. Education is the foundation of success for all of our boys and girls. And Governor Ellis Arnold, whose statue is down at the Capitol, says, quote, "Education is the cure of ignorance, poverty, and disease. We used to have the greatest education system in the history of the world. You guys know that. Common Core, according to me and all my expert friends in the colleges and high schools in this great state, is causing ignorance, poverty, and disease. And we have an obligation to ourselves, more importantly to our children and their children. We will get education under local control. We will look at the books. We will design the lesson plans. And we will take back our schools from the United States Department of Education and return the safety and security back to the people. It's unacceptable that there's not thousands of volunteers that should be patrolling the schools. So we're going to have control of our schools because we believe in Georgians and they're our schools, and Common Core is no more. Thank you.
Well, we talk about, in the Constitution, the Georgia Constitution, I think it starts around page 51, it talks about education, it talks about these guys called the Board of Regents. And in 1983, they amended our Constitution in Georgia to say, this is what's going to happen. We're going to give this big lump sum of money, this bucket of money, to these regents, one from each district, okay? And then pretty much our hands are off. They're going to do with it what they want to do. Now, they can't start any technical college or another university without the legislative body of Georgia approving it. But that bucket of money since 1983, and I don't think it was a Republican running the place when they passed the constitutional amendment, but the voters of Georgia had to sign on to it. Again, I was 2 years out of high school then, forgive me. But the whole idea is it's not going to change unless there's a constitutional amendment. You can wish it away and yell about it and complain about it. The bucket of money is still going to go to the Board of Regents for their education, for the higher education. And when I would say that it might be better to use some of that money in the K-12. I went to a little school where it was 2 wings. It was first grade through 12th grade until I got into 10th grade. There was just 2 wings in school. It's a small school over in Brownsville, Georgia. And so, you know, the education was different than it is now. Now, you segregate the kids out. You got this one little school here, then you got middle school, then you got high school, and you're paying for lots and lots and lots of facilities. Is education important? Yes, I think it is. It's important. I agree that those 3 things, education, transportation, and safety, are the most important things that the government is supposed to do. All these other things are peripheral that need to be.
Education is foundational. Again, you go back to the Declaration, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How are you going to be able to pursue happiness if you don't have an education? That's why in the state of Georgia, which says in our Constitution that we are mandated to provide an adequate education for every child in the state. But we've got to move away from this notion that it should be government-centric. The problems and challenges of education is because the government and the rules and regulations are holding back our teachers from teaching and our principals from leading on the foundational principles. Common Core is a big driver of that. But I believe in the people of Georgia. In other words, if we were to allow the money we're already spending on K-12 education to follow the child, I believe that parents would have make better choices and options about curriculum, about discipline standards. Even our best teachers feel constrained in executing what they believe is right because of the burdensome rules and regulations that government has put on them. So the free market principle of competition is what I'm after, which is to empower parents with the resources that we're already spending and then let them choose where they might want to send their child. On the QBE formula in particular, I want to perform it to make it more student-centered. Governor Deal did a great job to establish the commission, but we did not, the government did not implement the ideas from that commission. And so we need to make it more student-centric in terms of the funding. I want equitable funding for charter schools, and ultimately I want to put in place an opportunity where the money can follow the child to those families where their traditional public school is not working for them, so that they can send their kid to, you know, a private school, a charter school, or an online school, or a home school. But education is foundational. It's important. It needs to be funded adequately as well, and that's what the question originally was about. But we've got to make the key reforms so that that investment we're making has a higher return for our families and our children. Thank you.
We all see the critical importance of choice and free market courses in education. Even the candidates that aren't here believe in that as well. Let's have a real and specific conversation about where education is and where it has to go. QBE was created 30 years ago. Not much lasts perfectly for 30 years. Our modern education system was created at the end of the Second World War. But that wasn't for a society where 42% of children are born out of wedlock. That's your state. That's my state. 42% of children in Georgia are born out of wedlock. That leaves you with some hard problems. That leaves you with a 3rd grade reading rate where 2/3 of our 3rd graders don't read at a 3rd grade level. Again, 3rd grade reading, Best way to predict how many prison beds you're going to be paying for in 15 years, how many entitlements we're going to be spending on, and 2/3 of our third graders don't read at a third grade level. That's a hard problem. It is a whatever it takes problem, and it takes different thinking. First of all, it requires investments in preschool and after-school programs, market private ones that are showing a track record for less teenage pregnancy and alcoholism, for higher high school graduation rates, for catching kids up and having fallen behind on reading. It requires taking a look at things like dyslexia. Something like 1 in 5 of all Georgia children in our schools have got some amount of dyslexia, and something like 1 in 50 of our schools provide any sort of support for that. If you look at our classrooms, our children, we've got to have a more customized and flexible education system which requires technology. So now I come back to QBE. I would invest more in education, but it's got to be done differently. We need a QBE funding that rewards experimentation and innovation. Counties like Jeff Davis County punch way above their weight and get $6,900 per child, less than the $8,500 per child that was referenced earlier. That formula's got to recognize and reward innovation and outlier positive success. It's got to be a 21st century education.
The next question is for Hunter. You say that Georgia needs a political outsider as its next leader, as its next governor. Having served in the Senate for 6 years, I think it is, can you still claim the mantle of the political outsider?
You know, I appreciate the question. I normally say I'm tired of career politicians more than that we need an outsider. I think my 5 years in the Senate, it was 5, not 6, has uniquely informed me. I'm the only candidate in this race that has fought in combat, has led in business, and has served some time in elective office, specifically directly relatable to the office that I'm seeking. In other words, I learned a lot as a state senator. I've seen what's broken in the budget process. I've seen the lack of leadership, in terms of Casey Cagle. I mean, running the Senate and not fighting for many of the conservative values and principles that we need, that many of the people in this state have been fighting for 40 years. So am I totally an outsider? No, I'm not. I've been in the Senate for 5 years. But I believe that I have a unique set of leadership background, that uniquely qualifies me to tackle the tough issues, fight for what I believe in, and move people towards a common goal. That's what leadership's all about. Leadership is about taking a diverse group of people and moving them towards a common goal. When I talk about being a true conservative, that's very important, but at the end of the day, many people can talk conservative. What's important is that we are bringing people together and moving them towards the common goal of implementing the values and principles that we believe in into policy. And that's what has not yet been done. It's certainly not going to happen if Casey Cable's our next governor, and that's why I'm running for governor. So I'm fired up about the opportunity to lead and serve, and I'm prayerfully hoping that the Lord gives us that opportunity. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to respond? No?
I love it. Where I come from, having sought office for 10 years and served for 5 or 6 is more than a casual hobby. I guess only in politics is doing something for 5 or 10 years, not a career track. Let me tell you some of the things that I think haven't been done by our state legislative body that I think are unbelievably important. I, for example, in the last month, filed an open records request that it be fully and transparently disclosed any cases of sexual harassment by sitting legislators, past legislators, against people. How much of your tax money went to that? How many cases of that were there? Who were the cases between? And that's something that should have been, it could have been done a long time ago. It could have been done by any of the people, Brian, Hunter, Casey, Michael, who served in the state Senate. That should be honored and executed on immediately, not because a candidate asked, but because that's just the right thing to do. I mean, I want to know that as a citizen. If my legislature, if your legislatures used our tax dollars to cover up, resolve, and brush under the rug instances of sexual harassment where people abuse their power, That's the worst of what we expect from politics. That's something that you shouldn't have to ask to be done. If you look at us being the #1 place in America for sex trafficking, listen, my buddies that were SEALs, they actually retired. They started a service in Albuquerque. They decimated sex trafficking. They arrested this guy that had been one of the top heroin dealers, and he became one of the top sex traffickers. And they said, why don't you diversify? He said, I can sell a piece of heroin once. I can sell a child for sex 8 or 10 times every day. How did we get to be the #1 place in America for that and not act on that with greater urgency? We're better than that.
Thank you, Cliff. I believe in the people of Georgia, and I believe former Senator Hunter Hill mentioned the billions of dollars in the Board of Regents. So he's very well aware of this fact, what the Board of Regents and the General Assembly has done. Maybe Hunter will help me get to the grand jury. He can help me tremendously, but it's not me. I am fighting for you and your families. That's why I'm running for governor. It's never been about Mark Urbeck. It's about we, the people of Georgia, getting accountability back to your mansion. Hunter, he might look down here and say, yeah, Mark, I'll help you. He'll make that decision privately. Okay, I'm not going to put Hunter on the spot like that because that's not proper. Okay? We are men and women of Republicanism principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But isn't it interesting, folks, about the past 20 years, Georgians have been putting in conservatives. But look where it's gotten us. The most corrupt government in America. This is unacceptable. It's unacceptable that conservatives have created this oligarchy that has enslaved us and our children. Okay, it's not acceptable. And that's why I'm running for governor. I didn't think I was going to run for governor until I heard Michael Williams speak. That was after I had a private meeting with him. And I showed him exactly and typed out notes that I put on Facebook, how he can become governor. I'm sorry, you're right. I should have said that. But I'm fighting for you and your families, okay? Because we need to get accountability for you and your families and our children. And the best hope we have is that you believe in your future. But more importantly, you believe in your children's future. And if you do, you'll put in a constitutionalist into your mansion. No more conservatives. I've heard this word for 9 months. It's getting old. Conservative, because they are conservative with your money as they give it to their friends in the higher education committees. So thank you so much.
Outside, that's a good word to use. I'm just trying to open a restaurant in Watkinsville and run into the government there. I have this thing, it's called a grease trap. You have those in restaurants, right? And the question was, is that an outside grease trap or an inside grease trap? Okay, it happened to have a door open. And so we had to have a meeting to find out if that was outside or inside. You couldn't have accessed the grease trap from the inside of the building. So to me, just a common sense guy, it seems like it's outside. Even if there's a door there, we keep the guy who was pumping it dry, because it was inside of the closet type thing. And so when we talked about being an outsider, Ronald Reagan was the first president I got to vote for. Someone said, well, Eddie, what just made you decide to do this? What to run for governor? You really don't have a chance. That's just it. You're so far outside that there's not an outside. You're out in the woods. And I said, you know, this is not something that I come up with 8 hours before the deadline, which it appeared that way, because I came in 30 minutes before 12 o'clock noon on that Friday and found out that I had written the check to the wrong place. And I had to go truck it to a bank and get it back. We got there in 8 minutes still. I said, and I was coming back, I said, Father, if I don't make it, I got the answer to the question. The door's closed, we just move on. If I do make it, we'll just go as far as we can go. And so as far as outside, I think outside is outside. I think someone who's an outsider is an outsider, not someone who's been in 10 years, not someone in 5 years, or 14 years. I do love what Clay said in Flower Agreement today. And I laugh when I tell people about that too. You can't be in politics for 14 years and call yourself an outsider. You can't be doing this outside. I'm doing it for my family, I'm doing it for the state, and I'm doing it for my God.
I phrased this way in the last panel. I'm going to phrase it again because I got a laugh. Anyone who has lived in, visited, traveled to, flown over Atlanta knows that traffic is a huge problem. Tough crowd, never mind. The Atlanta metro area is growing very rapidly, one of the fastest in the nation. And recently the legislature passed bills that would help to expand mass transit, specifically Senate Bill 386 and House Bill 930, that's associated with the ATL, expanding in Fulton and Gwinnett and all those metro areas. Do you think those bills were enough? And what measures would you support that would help to expand mass transit in areas like Atlanta?
Am I turning this now? This is wonderful. I had a friend of mine, his name's Alan Muldoon, who lives down in South Georgia now. Back in 1993, no, I'm sorry, 2003, he had a grant to look at putting a highway from Chattanooga to the coast. Okay? An expressway to get the trucks out that's just having to pass through. I mean, it was a great idea when they ran 75 and 85 and they come through Atlanta. You know, God bless them. It got us for a long while. But he said the folks up north in the mountains, they didn't want to go for it. It was like a no game at all. We're not going to do this here. But I think it could change if we. Oh, this music is wonderful. This reminds me of my life. Every night at 9 o'clock, I'm going home. Sorry about that. I'm not sorry about that, but I'm sorry about that. I'm not there with her now. But he come up with that, and he said, Eddie, they didn't want it. But I'm thinking to myself, maybe if we revisit this and we do it with a private way, come at that the landowners land's not being condemned, not being taken away, not getting pennies on the dollar, but come up to a situation and do like we did the toll road. And that the people keep their lands for X amount of years, whatever the agreement happens to be, and they get money they can pass on to their children until the time limit's up. And then it becomes property of the state. If we get the traffic, the trucks out of there, I mean, I just heard on the news yesterday that there was a tanker truck just flipped over on a car. I mean, terrible. I don't know about the people in the car, but that happened. And I drive from Athens. I used to drive in Atlanta office, and I'm up here, and my son and I are driving up here, and you see these big trucks. And it's just all over the road. We need to get those guys to where they need to be. Transportation needs to happen. Coming through our town, through Atlanta, is not the place.
So there's two issues on transportation. It's the funding piece, and then the ideas that you're going to choose to fund. And what career politicians have done for the last 40 years is not be willing to cut from low return activities in the budget. And so what has gotten cut over time is transportation. To give you some meat on that bone, in the 70s, transportation was about 15% of the state budget. It's now dwindled down. It dwindled down to 5%. And then what did the career politicians say? We need funding for transportation, so let's pass $1 billion tax increase. Well, I voted against that tax increase because I don't believe that you should raise taxes for that which is 5% of the budget, because that's a justification of how you're spending the other 95. So what I want to do as the leader of the state is to make the hard choices and prioritize our transportation investment with the money that we already have, because we are behind on transportation funding. So then it goes to the issue of what are the ideas? Is it mass transit? Is it more roads? Well, the reality is transit is going to be a necessity in the metropolitan area as we become more dense. But you don't want to spend billions of dollars on rail solutions when you don't have the densities to support it, because it's about $100 million more per mile to invest in rail. So what I want to do is come up with market solutions. Traditionally, the government has subsidized the fare box never supports itself for transit in any city across the country. But if we had the fare box that supported itself, then if we we were going to subsidize, we would subsidize riders, not subsidize the system. It's complex, but we need free market solutions, and we need to make sure that we invest in outer perimeters around Atlanta, because the truck traffic is crushing us everyday commuters. And that's why I want to invest in the expansion of I-16 West to do the truck transit route, so that trucks not destined for Atlanta never have to come through Atlanta.
All right, let's get some interaction here. Show of hands. How many people think in the last 3 or 4 years Metro Atlanta traffic has gotten better? How many people think it's gotten maybe a little bit worse or a lot worse? All right, me too. And that's after having raised taxes $1 billion a year to improve this, okay? So if we want a different outcome, we're going to have to take a different sort of approach. It's one thing to say platitudes like, let's cut spending and do things. Details matter. Platitudes and philosophy doesn't get outcomes. Detailed plan and careful thought through and execution get outcomes. You know, the first thing is we've got to figure out where the money's going to come from. If I sit up here and I tell you I'd like to spend more on transportation infrastructure and cut your taxes, I'll give you specifics on where that's going to come from. That's why I talk about 14,600 baby boomers retiring and using it as a once-in-a-generation opportunity. That's why I show you that there's 20 counties in Georgia that have got 3 times the state average of their working age adults on disability. Those are the types of things that are unique, they're specific, they're actionable, and that could add up to $2 or $3 billion a year if you start going through all the things that are in that. So that's number one, is you need someone with business skills that can actually transform government and specifically tell you how that's going to happen. Number 2, we've got to invest in some different sorts of things. I believe that we could have an outer bypass. For example, we could probably have something connecting the 2 inland ports, which would relieve the traffic congestion that would be coming out of Savannah Port, and have trucking companies probably pay for half of it with toll fees. Okay? Next, LA, synchronize their traffic lights, a very small investment on top of asphalt already paid for, and reduce traffic by 17 to 21%. How would you like next time you're sitting in Atlanta or Canton or Marietta to have it be 20% better, and have that be getting more leverage out of something you've already paid for? That's a different type of approach, different type of thinking, and that's what you give them a different background.
Well, I drive a lot the last 9 months, working 20-hour days, and today was no exception. I left my home around, first I had to stop at Office Max this morning at 8, then I drove down to a courthouse, then I drove into Midtown, then I went all the way around 285 Southeast into Decatur, into Tucker, and then back up to Roswell for a meeting, and then went home, slept for 2 hours, and now I'm here. If the traffic is bad now, when this state adds roughly 4 million to 5 million people in the next 5 or 6 years, and 500,000 will go inside the 285 perimeter, the traffic could get double worse. We are crawling inside Atlanta. It's the worst traffic in the nation, okay? And politicians have created this. MARTA is a failed financial system, okay? I was at the Cobb County Commission roughly 7 weeks ago, and I blocked it with my powerful 3-minute presentation, because the grand jury is historically the governmental body that should answer transportation issues such as roads, bridges, and byways. I stopped it. The bills that this gentleman spoke of, you guys have to realize these representatives down the Gold Dome, they lie and deceive like you would not believe. My experts read the bills. They know that the 159 special districts, they're trying to push MARTA into the entire state. The citizens of Cobb are going to be forced to spend upwards of $220 million annually, and they don't have a say because the bills are very deceptive. The solution, folks, is the silver bullet, high-speed monorail system, 220 miles an hour, fully paid for by the General Assembly, okay? And it's much, much more cost-effective, much safer, faster for you and your families. It's 25 feet off the ground, prefab cement. I met Bill Owen at the Cobb County meeting. I met him privately. These are all my internal documents. The General Assembly needs to think of the future for us and our families, or the traffic's going to get double worse, and that's not acceptable for us.
My final question this evening is going to you, Mark.
Okay.
You mentioned a moment ago about being sick of hearing the word conservative because it means so many different things to so many different people. I'd like to ask you about what you mean by this. You've been quoted as saying you want a common sense approach to education, business, public safety. When you say common sense, what does that mean to you?
Thank you. Let me start the clock. Boom. Common sense, it comes from the famous book by Thomas Paine. Okay, and I went deeper into debt, like our founding mothers and founding fathers, as I've gone massively into debt. My fortune is gone. I put my life, my fortune, my sacred honor on the line for the state and nation the past 5 years. And my media corporation is CSN, Common Sense News. Truth you can believe in. Common sense means the people have a say in their government. It's also common sense. It's like common sense, the traffic is pathetically bad now, and we need to fix it. Common sense, our schools have, the Common Core has crushed our schools and our students' minds. It's common sense that we need to take back control of our schools. It's common sense that for over 20 years, people have been putting in conservatives into the halls of government, and look where it's gotten us. So I use common sense freely because it works. It's one of the 6 languages I speak. I speak English and common sense very well with a southern twang when you talk good southern, because I was raised on an army base in Alabama. I speak Hebrew and Yiddish, about 7 lines of French, 2 words of Russian. But common sense means that the people of Georgia, the greatest citizens in the nation, living in the greatest state of the nation, have a say in their government, and they force the representatives to represent the people. This is common sense how we can fix everything, not just for our future, but more importantly, our children's future and their children's future, because they deserve the best education, they deserve the best transportation system, safe. Too many people are getting killed every day on the highways. Common sense. When the Supreme Court of the United States illegally removed our 5 religious freedoms, that's unacceptable. I believe in enforcing the Constitution of the United States of America and restoring the 5 religious freedoms for our children. And the citizens will have a say in what freedoms they bring back to our schools. That's what I'm talking about with common sense for the people of Georgia. Make sense? Okay, thank you.
Mark, how much are we selling for tonight?
I'm sorry? I have to answer it. It's been $20 for 2 years, but thank you. Thank you, God bless. Thank you.
So the others get to answer? I mean, there's that.
If he hears it, that's
Sure. I like the small panel. I think it's more time to talk and engage myself because I'm not a career politician. I know Mark likes to talk about a statesman or common sense statesman. I'll look at common sense and a statesman. Our founders, they put it all on the line, and they did it for others. They did it as a service. Speak up. Oh, I do this too. I'm sorry. Our founding fathers put it on the line for all of us, and they a lot of them after the Revolutionary War, they were broke. They went to the deathbeds paupers, and I don't know what the outcome is of how people who are longtime politicians, what their income is. Mine, I've been a carpenter. I've been a restaurant owner, and there's a restaurant building and owner now. And so I believe in living and dying by your words. My kids, they know that. They know if they get me to commit to something, that I'm stuck with it. Okay? So I tell them, you know that I live and die by my words, and I want my kids to do the same thing. And so if I say I want to do something, then I've committed myself to do it. And that's what a statesman, and that's what common sense is about. You look at things and you judge it. You judge it against when our founding fathers were coming up with this idea of this republic that we live in. They used Israel, the Old Testament, how the government was set up. They used that heavily in determining how to write these things, the freedoms of religions, freedom of protection of property. If we don't have property, then we don't have anything. You can't say that this is mine. It's like I rent from the county of Clark County, the house I own. I paid for it many years ago.
I'll say something about conservatives. We've got some on this stage, you know what we apparently are not? People that can get a Monday night Cherokee County crowd to laugh. I mean, my point is that you guys showed up here tonight. It's 9:15 on a Monday. And I guess what I want to say on this is, for those of us who go around the state and do this, one of the things that's been really encouraging for me and humbling is how many of you show up and give your time, whether it's to knock on doors, put up the yard signs, come hear folks like us on a Monday night talking about our values. And I know everybody feels the same way. It's an honor that you guys care enough about our country and our state and our values that you come out and give your time on a Monday night. And I know many of you will be given time for various candidates between now and the end of the primary. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for your time here tonight.
All right, I'm pulling an executive decision here. I'm making an executive decision as the chairman of the Republican Party. We looked at the questions, and I personally have picked it down to 4. And the reason why, the only reason why is a few of them have been duplicated, and the other reason why is the time. Okay, so I'm trying to be respectful of your time. So I hope I don't anger anybody if your question is not asked. If you don't, if you have any complaints, I want you to know it's me solely that's making this decision. Okay, gentlemen, the 4 questions I'm going to ask you, you have 1 minute to respond. Okay, I'll try to keep it to that level. Okay, the very first one is about the Second Amendment. Do you support the open carry in Georgia? And I tell you, see who.
Okay, that's great. When my kids become 21 years old, the gift I give them is a pistol, and I tell them to go get a concealed carry permit. Okay, and get the training to do that and feel comfortable with it. So far, I've been very blessed to be able to agree with my children. 3 80s for their birthday, and 2 of them have gotten permits, and the other one's thinking closely about doing to do that. That's what I think about it. The Second Amendment, it protects the First Amendment. It protects all of us from the government. I think that there's an inherent idea that I should be able to protect my property, myself. And as governor, I would support open carry, and I think we should go farther than what we've done. I think Kennesaw, when I heard that when I was growing up, and I heard Kennesaw, everyone was required to, I thought, man, that's great. What are the crimes like in Kennesaw? What is this thing? It wasn't a Wild West. They all said it was going to be Wild West, but it wasn't.
Second Amendment's foundational constitutional principle. It's another one of these foundational principles that's going to continue to be attacked by the left, so we need really strong leaders that are going to be willing to stand up and defend it. I'm the only candidate in this race that has fought to defend our Constitution and the foundational principles on pre-combat tours overseas, and have fought in the state Senate to advance their Second Amendment rights, having voted for every pro-Second Amendment bill and expansion of gun rights that came across my desk. I am for open carry, I'm for constitutional carry. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It says it right there in the Constitution. And so we need to make sure that this right is available to all at all times and expanded. So I'll be your greatest defender of the right to keep and bear arms.
A couple things. One, I call it out when I see it, Hunter. You didn't support every pro-gun measure that came through. That's why you have a C with the NRA. I marvel at the wisdom and the foresight of the forefathers. They gave us the Second Amendment not just to protect us from governments, but from failures of government. Illinois has got some of the toughest gun laws in the country, and they have roughly the same gun death per capita that we have here in Georgia. I don't believe gun control works. I think that our Second Amendment rights are unbelievably important. I think it's important that people be able to carry. I think that's a right that they have to protect themselves and to protect themselves from failures in government. That's the great tragedy of Parkland, is that that wasn't just a failure. It was a failure of government to protect the children there and the citizens there. I think that there's nothing much more important that we have than our gun rights and our rights to protect ourselves. And I would, as your governor, work very hard to whatever is required to protect those rights.
I believe, and as your governor, We believe in our God-given inalienable rights to right to bear arms against the federal government. That's why our founding mothers and founding fathers gave us this special freedom. Okay? And the Bible clears the mind and the gun clears away the bad guys. That was basically what Thomas Jefferson said. As I lived a blessed life, I remember going to camp as a little boy here in the North Georgia mountains, lying on my belly shooting a .22 rifle. Gun owners do not commit the crimes. It's these loony birds that their heart and mind is corrupted because they don't believe in God that forces the hand to take the gun. I want to say this really loud. As your governor, hip hip hooray, the NRA is here to stay in Georgia. We will defend and keep our inalienable rights to bear arms for you and your families, to defend your house, your castle, your families, your children, and I support open carry. Because again, smart gun owners do not commit the crimes. They stop the bad guys. Thank you.
All right, due to the fact that I asked all the gentlemen to make sure that they answer the question directly and not take any personal attacks on anybody, not calling it a personal attack, but I am going to give the senator 30 seconds to respond, please.
Well, look, our nation was founded on people that are willing to fight for our nation, whether volunteer or be drafted. And Clay, you decided to support our country, and thank you for your service, becoming a Navy SEAL, but I would never question your integrity. The bottom line is that I've voted for every expansion of Second Amendment rights as a senator. It's just a fact. The reason I was given a C was my first race. I answered the questionnaire from the NRA wrong. I'm an NRA member. Every bill that came across my desk, I voted for, and so my most recent rating from the NRA reflects that. And then finally, I will just say, I'll be your greatest defender of the right. I was disappointed that the NRA chose to endorse in this race when I believe all of us would stand strong on the Second Amendment.
All right. Next question, and we'll start with you, Senator. How do you feel about raising the age to purchase firearms from 18 to 21?
So I'm not for it. So we are able to get weapons at the age of 18 if they're long. But for some reason, we're not going to let folks come and get a weapon if they're 18, if it's a handgun. I think that's wrong. We ought to have parity down and move the ability to keep and bear arms of a pistol down to 18. Because if you're a law-abiding citizen and you can go serve your country and shoot an M4 or an AR-15 as a civilian description, then you ought to be able to defend yourself and your family when you come back home into America. So I think that we should have parity down to 18, not parity up to 21.
Mr. Blake.
Look, I think the difference between a fact and the truth. Hunter sat with Stacey Evans February 23rd and said parity should work the other way. If you've got to be 21 on a handgun, you have to be 21 to own a long gun. That's not the truth that you believe parity goes the other way. You believe that you should have to be 21 to own a long gun. That's what you said, words matter. Like I said, I don't think gun control works. If you look at the data, the places that have very stringent gun control, you don't see that making the citizens safer. I think that our Second Amendment rights are unbelievably important. My family, I can still carry a permit, and I would protect your right to carry and bear arms and protect your family as strong as I would protect my own family.
Again, I believe in our God-given and inalienable rights to bear arms. And I believe 18-year-old men and women that signed the contract to fight and or die for the state, nation, or allies, if they can do that with a weapon, all of our citizens here in Georgia, 18 or older, should be able to apply and get their gun permit, okay, and open carry. Because it's common sense. Gun owners, NRA owners, which myself I am, do not commit crimes. We stop the bad guys. We have fun with our guns. I was the only candidate here in Cherokee County at the Waleska, the Waleska Mountain Sporting Race. John, you were there, I think, the shotgun. We raised $12,000 for 3 Christian charities. Okay, so I support gun ownership. I want our boys and girls to go to camp. I have a parental plan to do that so they can learn to use a gun. When they get older, they won't commit crime. Okay, so we need to get us right with allowing citizens and teaching them the proper values with gun ownership. Thank you.
Okay, next question. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm trying, y'all.
My name is Eddie Hayes. I'm the outsider. So I'm just having fun trying your expense. Okay, so the question was, I think that I would also say that raising the age to 21 on a long gun, I would agree with that we should lower the age to 18 on the handguns. Period. Guns are guns, whether it's long or short, it's a gun. And like, if you can go to war and carry a gun, then you should be able to do it. Law-abiding citizens are the ones who do a lot of the policing here. Okay? It helps. You take someone who's a single mom who's living by herself. She needs that protection. I'm 5'6". I need the protection. Okay? Oh, you laugh. Good. I need the protection. So I'm definitely in favor of 18, and I think that the law that's in place now, I think it should be corrected to that I don't have to tell the government what guns I have when I come on the campus. I just think that's just infringement upon my right. So I would say that one, though it moved the ball in the right direction, it needs some work.
Okay. Clay, we're starting with you next, if I keep record straight here. All right, Georgia has an income tax law, a sales tax, an income tax, a sales tax, and a property tax. Would you want to eliminate one of them? Everybody got that? I know I messed it up. It's either income tax, sales tax, and the property tax here in Georgia. Would you want to eliminate one? Go ahead.
In theory, I'd love to eliminate all of them. I'd like taxes to be lower, okay? Here's what I think is an achievable and feasible tax goal. I don't want to see sales tax go up. I think property taxes are a stealth tax where basically local governments are forced to raise the millage rate. I think what we need to do is first, as I said, implement these specific but bold things to cut spending by $2 to $3 billion, 10%. And I think that we could get income tax below 4%. If we were to do that, I mean, as a taxpayer, I don't think about one of those three and think this one matters and this one doesn't. It's all money coming out of our pockets. So what I'd like to do is get the lowest possible of those three, and I believe the one that we need to lower with the most urgency is income tax. And I believe to do that, it requires a leader with business skills that can tell you specifically what they're going to do to transform, strengthen, and reprioritize your government. And that's one of the reasons I decided to run.
Florida has no income tax. Texas has no income tax. I think New Jersey and 3 other states. If they can do it, we can do it. The question is, how are we going to raise money for all the infrastructure of a bloated bureaucracy? Okay. Well, I'm an expert on many, many things, and it's common sense what we'll do if we can go to a no income tax. We can either go to a fair tax, a consumption tax, or something in between. But we'll sit down with you, the people. Because you're the first branch of government. I want you to have a say in your government. And you will have a say with Governor Urbeck. Because that's how the government is supposed to work, for the people. Okay? So we'll sit down with the experts and we'll figure out how we can curtail this bloated bureaucracy of an out-of-control government that the budget is swallowed $15 billion to $26 billion. And then we'll properly fund it. Okay? We will properly fund the government. We're working with Governor Urbeck's administration. That's how it's supposed to work, and that's how it will work for you and your families. Thank you.
Easy choice. It was income, it was property, and what was the third? Sales. Definitely property. I think I should be able to own my home. Right now, I don't own my home. I rent it from the county. I pay $200 a month rent to the county. I think I should be able to die, I should be able to pass that on to my children, and it not be taxed. If I owned it, if the state said we own it, then we can start, if we can own our property, then maybe we can get our taxation issue down and figure it out. But until we get to where we can actually say, it's my home, it's not your home. Okay? You don't pay your taxes, it will be sold on the courthouse step. Property taxes first. That gives us back to our God-given rights of owning and keeping something that belongs to us, that we earned, we paid for, And then, I think if we can do that, the other ones, I would go with the consumption tax. So everyone, so if we're paying 6%, if all of Georgia, 100% of Georgia paid taxes, then it would go immediately to 3%, right?
And career politicians always come up with reasons why we can't do conservative reforms. And I want to eliminate the income tax, and I believe we can, I believe we should, because when you're taxing income and capital, you're taxing productivity. And if we create an environment in Georgia where we have a no income tax state, then we'll have organic growth and capital moving into our state in ways that are not government centric. I want to do it over a 7-year period. We have to maintain our AAA bond rating. And I want to do a broad-based consumption tax in order to bring in the revenue, because the income tax only taxes honest Georgians, whereas a broad-based consumption tax would tax visitors to our state, folks in the underground economy, and illegal immigrants. And over time, over the 7-year period, it would raise it only 3 points, and we'd get rid of all 6 points of the income tax because we're broadening the base. We can have lower rates. I would not want to raise property taxes because property taxes are higher already.
All right, final question. We're going to start with Mark. What is your education?
My background is when I was a little boy in the Army base in Fort Rucker, Alabama. Then my family moved to Orlando, Florida, where I attended some of the finest private schools. I say this because as your governor, we will have the best education in the nation for our children and their children. Junior college, community college for 2 years, 1 semester in Orlando, then I transferred to Santa Fe Community College in Gainesville, Florida. And don't hold it against me, I'm only half a Gator. I transferred into the University of Florida with my AA degree, earned my BS in communication journalism. Then when I moved here in 2000, I went back to college, went to Georgia State, took a year's worth of classes to be certified to teach in Gwinnett County. Then went back to Georgia State teaching in 2001 up in Lawrenceville, and I got my Master's of Education. And boy, do I believe in education. It's the foundation of our success, plus the Holy Bible. We get those two back. Holy Bible, people's hearts and minds and souls, and proper good education under local control, and we will succeed. Thank you.
I graduated high school in 1981, did not go into further education from that, except for the studies that I've done on my own. I think that with the idea of asking what our education is, that's great. I think education for some people is not to go to college. I think a good technical school would be great. Or I think anything, I tell my kids, I said, this is what you need to do, and I encourage them. Okay, I encourage you to start a business that you and your family can work together. So you're not here, mom's over there with the kids, and we're working together as a family. I did that 18 years with my Zaxby's franchise. My oldest daughter started when she was 5, my second daughter when she was 3, and then on like that. And so I'm all about education, I'm all about family businesses and families staying together.
I graduated from high school and I went to the United States Military Academy at West Point. I count some of these Army schools. U.S. Army Ranger School was an education for me. So was the U.S. Ranger School. I did 2 combat tours with 101st Airborne. I got out and got into the real estate business. And I was getting an MBA at Terry College of Business when I got involuntarily recalled to go back to Afghanistan, so I did not finish my MBA when I got home.
I graduated from Shiloh High School in Gwinnett County. I was really blessed and fortunate to earn a swimming scholarship to Stanford University. When I was in the Navy, one of the better things I learned is that push-ups make you smarter, what the instructors used to say. And probably the most important thing I've learned along the way, I picked up sometime in the last 21 years. And for the young people in the audience who are not married, this one took me longer to learn than it should have. 4 words: happy wife, happy life.
All right. Closing statements. I believe we started at this end and on opening statements. We'll start on that end for the closing statements. You have 1 minute.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your Monday evening to be with you and your families. It's an honor to be speaking to fellow Georgians. I want to, first of all, we should also thank and give a big applause for Pat and Dawn of the Cherokee County Republican Women's and you being here. So please give yourself a applause. qualifications are a former teacher, former businessman, a constitutional expert, a professional author, journalist, public speaker, a citizen who fights for justice and enforces the law, trying to get to the grand jury. My qualifications are superior to many, if not all, the candidates in terms of integrity. My petitions, I put my neck out there. You can imagine David Schaefer's praying for me. Thousands of citizens said, Mark, you earned my vote. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you. What can I do for you and your families? I'm fighting for you and your families. I believe in you, and I know together we can succeed. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
I've never looked at my ballot and thought, you know what's missing here is we need more folks that have been in politics for 10 or 20 years. It's just not what I think. I don't think that the answer is give folks that have been in the system more time and more power to finally do the things differently they should have done. I do believe there's a different way of doing these things. I think there's a different set of outcomes to sit in front of us to drive and achieve over the next 8 years if we do it differently. I think we can go from being the #1 place in America for sex trafficking to devastating sex trafficking, reducing heroin and MS-13, and showing the rest of the country how to do that. I think that we go from having 2/3 of our third graders not reading to actually having an education system that not only provides hope and a path, but also bends the cost curve down for entitlements and prison beds. I actually think it's possible to do during a time of plenty what has been done during times of recession, to cut spending, to transform the government. Those would be really great outcomes that I think I'm capable of driving.
Well, thank you all so much for inviting me and giving me a chance. Look, over the course of my time in the military, especially my 3rd tour in Afghanistan, and having faced the enemies of our country, I found that Islamic terrorism would never bring our country to its knees. We're simply too strong for that, and they are too weak. But then after 5 years in the state Senate, it all came together for me. That the fight for the future of the country is not overseas, it's in the State House, in the U.S. Congress, all over this country. We need conservatives to fix the trajectory of our country, because if we don't, we're going to run out of money, and then none of this conversation matters when we go broke. So we have to have fiscally conservative people. So y'all's decision is, who truly is conservative, who believes in the values and principles, and who has the leadership experience to get these values and principles that y'all have been fighting for the last 40 years implemented into policy. And I think the diversity of my leadership experience in business, in politics, and in the military has uniquely prepared me to tackle the tough issues and move people towards a common goal so we can deliver results for you, the taxpayer. Thank you so much.
Again, my name is Eddie Hayes, and I'm the outsider, according to the standard outside. Right? Thank you. But I tell my kids when we sing together as a family, the most important note is the last note, because that's the one you're going to remember. And the one thing I'd like to remember, you would remember me, is that if we have all we need, and we don't share with those that are in need, what good are we? We have a safety net, and I'm in favor of safety nets, but I'm not in favor of abuse. And as your governor, I would continue that. I would not, the promise I would make, the pledge I would make to you, I will not be benevolent with your money. I will be benevolent with my money, and I hope you'll be benevolent with your money. But I will not, as a state, should not be benevolent with the money we have. The rainy day fund does not need to exist. It's our money. Why are they holding on to it?